Welcome again. I'm Linda Kroll, and we're talking about how to start over in your relationship. And the way to do that is to realize that partners often talk at each other instead of listening with empathy. So ask yourself, how are you showing up in your relationship now? If you took your own inventory of your relationship and of your role in it, what are you thinking? What are you doing? How are you being? Are you being your best self or are you being reactive? Are you feeling judgmental and blaming? Because I think being in limbo, in that state of do I want to stay or want to go, is really the hardest place to be. At least when you make a decision, you know which way you're going. So whether you're listening as a professional, whether you're listening for yourself, I'm glad you're here. Because so ask yourself, are you being your best self? And what is your partner thinking about you? How's your partner reacting? How is he or she showing up? And what are the filters through which you're judging yourself and your partner? He always does this, she never does that. Are you willing to change those filters? Can you have the courage to put the wall down around your heart and allow for healing to happen? And if you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to see happen? Because you can be the change you hope to see, not only in the world, as Gandhi says, but also in your relationship. So allow yourself to be the change you want to see. And hang in with me as I help you see how to do that. Is that to decide whether to stay or go, you really have to begin a dialogue with your partner. And probably you don't know how to do that. Because when you've been with someone, when you promise to marry them, I mean, Einstein has said, men marry women hoping they'll never change, women marry men hoping to change them, and inevitably they're both disappointed. And then they either come to your office or my office, or that's how you might be feeling now, very disappointed. But your way of communicating has probably been dysfunctional. Instead of empathy, there's probably been judgment or blame. Instead of understanding or compassion, there's probably been justification or rationalization or minimization, and you're stuck. So you're stuck feeling, should I stay or should I go? And if you work with clients that feel this way, I want to help give you some tools that you can use now. And if you have to leave early, you can go to lindakroll.com/contact and contact me. You can direct message me or leave me a message. But I would like to help you from where you are now, create a better relationship for yourself starting now. And for your clients, I want to help you know how to be with them so that they have the courage to talk about everything, even to talk about the parts that can't decide, should I stay or should I go? Because usually when there's a situation in your office, if you're a therapist or a coach, or in your own relationship, you don't want to talk about the parts that can't decide if they want to stay or go. You feel that if you do, you're not doing the marriage counseling right, or it's going to lead inevitably to a divorce. But unless you make room for all those parts to be seen and acknowledged and present, you're not really going to be able to move on. You're not going to be able to create the relationship that you're trying to create. So the question, should I stay or should I go, is actually a good one. Because when you honor the part of yourself that is ambivalent, it gives you the courage, hopefully, to speak for the parts of you that are confused, hurt, sad, scared, angry, resentful, judgmental. Take a breath with me here. You learn how to speak about all those parts from your higher self. And Wayne Dyer has said that when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. And what I help my clients do, what I want to help you help your clients do, is become more self-led. In internal family systems therapy, we talk about being in self as being calm, clear, connected, compassionate, curious, courageous, confident. And when you come from that energy inside yourself, which you do have, even when you're blended with parts that are sad or scared or hurt or angry, take a deep breath. That is how you get to your higher self. And I have a process where I help clients in the first session get a felt sense of what being in self is about. And I'll show you how to get my meditation at the end of this session to help your clients too. So when you are working with clients that are thinking of leaving, or you're thinking of leaving, you want to speak from your higher self with empathy for your partner. You begin a whole new dialogue that is self-led. Again, when you change the way you look at something and you're willing to look at it with empathy, that you're both suffering, you're both unhappy, you're both scared, you're both angry. And instead of speaking from those parts in an endless dialogue that kind of repeats itself, you learn a new way to compassionately communicate. So compassionate communication starts with being connected to your highest self, being connected to that energy inside of you that connects to God, connects to the universe, is your soul, is your spirit, is your heart, is your compassion. You go there. And often we haven't gone there for a long time because we've had our walls up, protecting ourselves from being hurt anymore. But what you do when you compassionately communicate, it's 4 steps. You learn how to connect to your best self. You learn how to let go of all those limiting beliefs and judgments that you've been carrying, maybe for years or decades, about yourself or your partner. You unburden the pain from the past, both from your relationship and even your distant past, and you relate from your heart. And that's what you start to do when you start over. So starting over doesn't mean you sweep everything under the rug. It doesn't mean, okay, we're going to pretend like our first relationship didn't happen. But we're going to say we each did the best we knew how to do about our level of awareness at the time. We didn't know better. We learned different attributes from our families of origin. We came in with different beliefs. We came in with different roles. We're not the same people we were 10 years ago. And when you start to look at how you're showing up, it's an inside job. That's how change happens. So even if your partner has no desire to change, isn't on board, you can bring change to your relationship if you're willing to start over. If you're willing to take a look at all the judgments, blames, resentments that you've been carrying, and you're going to change your focus, instead of changing your focus from what you don't want, you're going to talk about what you do want. Create a vision for your future, and then you're going to see, based on who you both are now, are you going to be able to create something new together? What do you each want? What are your goals for the future? How do you want to deal with money, parenting? And you start to understand the other's perspective, even if you realize you're not compatible, even if you realize you may have to separate or get divorced. But you can start over with a whole different energy. And then you can heal the relationship even as it transforms. Because I've always said, I believe families need not be broken, but can be peacefully and respectfully restored. I'm Linda Kroll. I'm a therapist, mediator, attorney. I wrote the book, Compassionate Mediation, How to Add Passion to Your Marriage or Compassion to Your Divorce. And for over 35 years, I've also been a Chopra certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And I blend emotional and spiritual healing along with legal and financial support. And I do this work because I'm passionate about it. I'm passionate because of what I've learned professionally with all those degrees, but even more important, I'm passionate because of how my divorce was. I married my college sweetheart. We were deeply in love. And about 20 years into the marriage, it looked like we were headed for a separation. And I did all the typical processes. I went to marriage counseling. I separated for a while. I used mediation, but there was no one available to talk about what would an ending look like, and how do we talk about all of our issues with empathy? How do we stop blaming and judging and justifying and defending? How do we take a breath and have the courage to talk about our own pain, sadness, and fear? Not judgments that the other party has to defend, but your own feelings of pain, sadness, and fear. And when you can do that, you leave your partner an opportunity to listen, understand, and empathize. And if they can't, you may have other decisions to make, but at least give them a try, give them an opportunity. And then you have to learn how to listen with empathy. And even if your partner is acting out, is angry, has had an affair, whatever they've done to hurt you, be curious, which is one of those qualities of self, that higher self, curiosity. Be curious as to why it happened. Why was there an affair? Why is your partner so unhappy or so angry? Be curious, and that's how you start over. By showing them that even though they're acting out in ways that you may have to set boundaries with, they may be yelling, which isn't okay, but however they're speaking to you, underneath the anger or the resentment or the judgment, there's an inner child that's deeply hurting, just like yours is. And if you can have compassion for that part of your partner, you can begin to talk about all issues with empathy and understanding. And when you do that, you begin a dialogue that can talk about everything. So let's talk about a few things that you would talk with your clients about or with your partner about. Because what you want to do is do an honest appraisal, meaning, where are we now? How did we get here? Where are we now? And then you may need to figure out how to talk about everything: the finances, the children, parenting, friendships, roles and responsibilities, and why you're unhappy. But again, you're going to learn how to do it with empathy. And then you're also going to talk about the burdens that you're each feeling, your plans for the future. And eventually, if one of you is having an affair, you can heal from that too. There are ways to heal from an affair. And if one of your issues is sexual incompatibility, you can heal from that. Again, once you process what you're angry about, what you're resentful about, and you reach a new understanding with your partner that allows for new beginnings, you can actually heal your sex life, because the walls come down, the filters come off, and guess what? Forgiveness is possible and healing happens. So remember, it's not about finding a perfect person to love, as Sam Keen said. It's learning how to perfectly love another imperfect person. And we're all imperfect some way. And beginning again, at least you can look back. If you're not meant to stay together, you can look back and say you tried. You can always leave. In fact, I tell all the clients that come to my office, I tell them, even if they're both coming for marriage counseling, I tell them your first marriage is over. Okay? It's not about fixing it or saving it. It's about creating something new. Now, do we have to process the pain? Yes, but we're going to do it with empathy, not judgment, blame, tit for tat, he said, she said, but really understanding the pain and suffering that each party felt so that you can make changes for the future. And when you do that, you get to see what your role has been in the relationship. One of my clients said that she thanked me for all that I did for her and her ex-husbands, because I helped them see the true issues and the roots of them. And I also helped them access their higher self energy in the first session. How do you get from wounded, judgmental, angry, blaming, resentful, shut down, to a place where you can look at all those parts of yourself and look at the parts of your partner and have empathy again for the inner child inside? Now let's talk about some specifics of the should I stay or should I go. For instance, if there is physical abuse, you need to get out. You need to find a way, a safe place, and get out. There's nothing you're going to say that's going to stop an abuser, so don't stay and try. And if there's emotional abuse, which there often is, it's often directed in both parties, it's how do we communicate without you. But if there's physical abuse, you need to get out. If there is emotional abuse, you're going to learn to talk about the feelings underneath the anger. Now, there might be addiction in your relationship, and you're trying to consider, can I stay? Should I go? I don't want to leave. I love him or her, but on the other hand, I can't stay. Deep breath with me here. Get yourself to an Al-Anon meeting as soon as you can so that you can heal yourself before you make any decision. Again, addiction is a disease. You are powerless over changing the other person. There is a higher power. And if you don't believe in God, there's a higher power in meetings of just the people that are there. You can also turn your will over to your higher power, meaning that you don't need to codependently fix, save, and rescue everyone, but you can begin a new dialogue where you learn to set boundaries, you learn to ask for what you want and need, and you're not afraid to leave. And that's really important. That's why I wrote the book, Compassionate Mediation, because it helps people communicate compassionately with empathy about all the issues you need to discuss. So have you explored all your options? Do you know that you can talk about a post-nuptial agreement if you have some disagreements? You can separate for a little bit. You can get a legal separation or a divorce, but there's a rainbow of options besides stay or go. And when you see it as black and white, you stay paralyzed. You don't want to take a step in either direction. It's kind of like, it's too hard to stay, but too scary to leave. So I'll put my head in the TV or the icebox or whatever I'm going to do, or go have an affair. That's why a lot of people go have an affair, because they're not able or willing to talk about the issues that are making them want to get extreme like that, instead of dealing with their pain and sadness. So again, if you go to Al-Anon for addiction, or even if you don't, step 3 is to turn your will over to a higher power. So for us codependents, it means we don't have to continue to try to fix, save, and rescue the world, but we can ask for support. And the 4th step of Al-Anon that I think is relevant for everyone across the board is take your own inventory. What are you doing? How are you being? How locked up are you? How judgmental are you? How resentful are you? And underneath, how hurt are you? How sad are you? How scared are you? Be with those feelings, share those feelings, and start over. You really have nothing to lose. If you're here for yourself, you may have one foot out the door. If you're here for your clients, I think everybody that comes to marriage counseling has had a part that has thought, what if I left? What if I just started over? What if I found someone else who gets me, who wouldn't have an affair, who wouldn't be so angry, who would do the laundry half the time or take me out to dinner? I don't know. But maybe that person's out there, but maybe not. But in the meantime, do your own work so that you can show up in your highest and best self, because that's how you're going to be free. You could decide to leave tomorrow and hire an attorney and get divorced, which I'd never recommend. I'd always suggest mediation. But you could get divorced soon. But if you haven't done your own emotional work, you're going to stay stuck. Every time you think of your partner, every time you interact with your partner, every time if you have children and grandchildren that you get together, you're still going to be tugging at the feelings that you haven't processed. So take the time you need to heal and to do your own processing about what is important to you. So again, abuse, get out. And otherwise, if there's an affair, you can heal from that too. Because I'm working with a lot of clients right now who are dealing with affairs that either they've had, their partners have had. And there's often a feeling when someone has an affair that that is the end of the relationship. I have a feeling if that were true, there'd be many more divorces. I believe people can heal from affairs if they want to. And what that means is the person who is having the affair has to be willing to do 3 things, at least. Has to end the affair, has to be totally transparent, and has to be patient and willing to let their partner process their feelings for as long as they need, hopefully not indefinitely. The partner that has been betrayed has to do things too. They have to be willing to take a look at what caused their partner to go have an affair. They have to be curious about what were the problems. They have to get some kind of compassion about the pain that their partner's in. And even if they decide to leave, forgiveness will set them free. That doesn't mean you condone the affair. That doesn't mean you approve of that violation. And for some of my clients, they decided long ago when they were young that if their partner ever had an affair, their marriage was over. And I think to myself, they're making that life-changing decision based on a belief that they had when they were 15. And many years later, when they have families and children and grandchildren and friends and extended family, sometimes you have to take a look at what your ego chooses to believe to see if it's worth hanging on to see if you need to stay a victim and hide behind your anger because you really don't want to deal with the pain. And I know that happens to people, and it's so tragic, and it doesn't have to be that way. And that's where starting over comes in. So the person who feels betrayed has to be curious about why this happened in the first place. They have to be willing to look at their contribution so that it doesn't happen again and own it and maybe make amends for it without defending it, rationalizing it, minimizing it. And number 3, they have to be willing to forgive, not unwilling. Because if you're unwilling to forgive, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're not going to forgive. You're going to stay stuck in anger. You're going to stay stuck in resentment. You're going to stay stuck in victimhood. And it's not a pretty experience. And it's so limiting to the rest of your life. So even if there's been an affair, you can start over. You can heal. You can transform it because there are things that you can do and not do to make things better. And if you have children, you don't want them to hear you're fighting. Even if you get divorced, there's a way with compassionate mediation to do it with kindness, to do it with compassion, to restructure your family. As I said, families don't need to be broken. They can be peacefully and respectfully restructured. You can talk about physical and legal custody and who's going to pay for what, but basically you want to start over. You want to start over by creating 2 loving homes where your children feel comfortable and safe. And you can't do that if you're unwilling to start over, because you are going to start over. I mean, if you decide you're leaving, guess what? You are starting over. You are starting a separation. You are starting a divorce. And I've often said, if people would put as much energy into looking at themselves in their marriage as they have to do if they're thinking of getting divorced, they don't have to look at themselves, but there's a lot to learn about getting divorced. Take the time first to start over, to connect to your best self, to take a look at all those limiting beliefs and judgments that you don't have to keep telling yourself. To unburden pain from the past, go to therapy, join a program. I have a program I can tell you about where you unburden the pain. You don't carry it with you. It keeps you from being in the present. You may not even notice that your partner is doing some things to change, but you're still holding on to so many resentments from the past. You're bringing them into present, you're projecting them in the future, and you're not even with what's happening right now. So take a deep breath, which I often ask my clients to do, because this can be different. If you're a professional listening to this, I have a roadmap, I have a certification. I want to reach as many people as possible with this process because, as I said, for my own story, it didn't end that way. I was happily married, then we separated for a very long time. Then we finally got divorced in a typical adversarial divorce. And no matter my best intentions, there was a lot of pain, a lot of acrimony. And I made it my life's mission to help other people avoid that. And you can. You can start over. And if you're starting over to create a separation or starting over to create a divorce, do it compassionately. You can get a free chapter of my book at lindakrollbook.com, which outlines a lot of what I tell my clients. Because when we're coming from our higher self, that calm, compassionate, curious place inside of us, we can speak for our parts instead of from our parts. We can talk about the part that feels so angry, that feels so hurt, that feels so sad. And when you're talking about your own feelings, instead of your judgments about your partner, you give them a better chance of showing you empathy. I feel that you were a jerk is not a feeling, okay? It's a thought. It's a judgment. Even if you believed your partner was unfair or unreasonable or mean, that belief causes you to feel hurt and sad, maybe even scared that it's going to go on forever. Doesn't have to be that way. You can learn how to forgive yourself and forgive your partner. So let's talk about forgiving yourself as a way to start over. Because many of us, again, were influenced by our family of origin. We learned how to be codependent. We found someone that needed us, and we did everything we could to please him or her. And then somewhere along the lines, we realized our needs weren't being met, and maybe we revolted. We got angry, and they didn't recognize us, and they got angry. There is a way to heal from codependency. Codependent No More and Beyond Codependency, 2 great books by Melanie Beattie. But when you start to recognize that you've kind of sabotaged yourself in your relationship, sometimes it's hard to forgive yourself. But shooting on yourself is never helpful. So allow yourself to truly believe you did the best you knew how to do, considering your level of awareness at the time, considering how you were brought up, what you were taught by your family of origin, how you behaved in other relationships, whether or not you came from an alcoholic family or there were secrets in your family, all played a role in how you showed up. So first and foremost, show compassion to yourself. Start over by forgiving yourself. If you take nothing else away from this talk right now, forgive yourself. Because if you forgive yourself, you're going to be able to forgive your partner, whether you stay or not. And forgiveness is what's going to set you free. The judgments, the blame, the guilt, the shame, the recriminations, going to keep you in the spiral. So allow yourself to start over by showing up in a way that allows for. I have a compassionate communication care kit, and on that care kit is the guided meditation I give my clients to help them get to self. It might be helpful for you or for your clients. And then I also have a roadmap of the whole compassionate mediation process for professionals to learn this process and talk to me. And if anything I said on here makes you want to reach out to me, please do. We can set up a time to chat. Because as I said, I am so passionate about helping individuals and couples heal and transform their relationship. This works if only one of you is interested. In other words, I've had a lot of questions. Well, what if my partner isn't interested in having these dialogues? You can still make a change. You can still show up in your higher self. Even if you get divorced and you're at an event, a graduation, and you're coming from your higher self, even if your partner isn't able to. Your children aren't in the middle of the shrapnel of the two of you. Maybe there's some coming in your direction, but you're not shooting any. So truly starting over for yourself is allowing yourself to be free. And when you do that, miracles happen. Miracles happen with empathy. Miracles happen with forgiveness. Miracles happen when you learn how to compassionately communicate. Please reach out to me. I've got 35 years of experience, and I want to give it all to you to help you heal your relationship, to help you heal your client's relationship, and to create a world where we truly can change the face of divorce one heart at a time. So let's start with your heart. Let's start with the hearts of your client, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.